In today's video, we're going to talk about how to solve multi-step inequalities. The steps are the same as solving one and two-step inequalities, just a little bit longer. Don't forget to flip the sign if you divide or multiply by a negative number. Alright, example number 1. I have negative 112 is less than negative 7 times the quantity 1 plus 5n. My first step, just like with equations, is to use the distributive property with the negative 7. So I have negative 112 is less than negative 7 times 1 is negative 7, and negative 7 times 5n is negative 35n. My next step is going to be to move all the constants to one side of the equation. So I'm going to move the negative 7 to the left by adding 7. That's the addition property of inequality. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with 105 negative is less than negative 35n. I see multiplication, so I'm going to use division. I'm dividing both sides by negative 35. When I divide by a negative, I'm going to need to flip the inequality symbol. So this is going to become a greater than. I have 105 divided by 35 gives me 3, and it's positive. 3 is greater than n. I'm going to flip that around to put the variable first, so I have n is less than 3. And in order to graph that, I'm going to have a closed dot on 3, and my arrow is going to point to the left, because that's where all the numbers that are less than 3 are located. Right, example number 2, I'm going to switch colors here just so we don't get confused. I have negative 5 times the quantity, negative 3 minus 3m is less than or equal to 8m minus 13. First step is still distributive property. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. Negative 5 minus 3m is a positive 15m. Less than or equal to 8m minus 13. Notice I am not multiplying by a negative 5 on both sides, so I do not need to flip the symbol. I only flip the symbol when I'm multiplying by a negative number on both sides of the inequality. Right, next step is to move all the variables to one side. I'm going to accomplish this by subtracting 8m from both sides. These two will cancel, and that leaves me with 15 plus 7m is less than or equal to negative 13. I then need to move the constants to the other side, so I'm going to use the subtraction property of inequality. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. These two cancel, so I'm left with 7m is less than or equal to 28 negative. Come up here, running out of room. And I see multiplication, so I'm going to use division. I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And that leaves me with m is less than or equal to negative 4. Notice I'm dividing by a positive number. Even though 28 is negative, the number that I'm dividing by on both sides is positive, so I do not need to flip the symbol. In order to graph that, I'm going to put a dot on negative 4, and it's going to be closed. And then I'm looking for the numbers that are greater than negative 4, and those are all the numbers to the right. So my arrow is going to point to the right. Let me go back to number 1 really quick. I just noticed a mistake here. Some of you probably already caught this. This number is strictly less than 3. So my dot, in fact, should not be a closed dot. It should be an open dot on 3. So your graph should look like that. Alright, number 3, we have some fractions involved here. So I'm going to pick a new color here one we haven't used yet. Let's go with red. Alright, so my first step is still going to be the distributive property. So I have 341 over 4 is greater than or equal to 19 over 6 times k plus, this is 5 over 1, so 5 times 13 is 65 over 8k plus 5 times 7 is 35 over 2. My next step will be to find a common denominator. I have 4, 6, 8, and 2. So my common denominator is going to be 24. And I'm going to multiply my numerators so that I have denominators of 24. So 4 times 6 is 24. So 341 times 6 gives me 2,046. It's greater than or equal to. 6 times 4 is 24, so 19 times 4 is, let me try that again, 19 times 4 is 76, plus 8 times 3 is 24, so 65 times 3 is 195, plus 2 times 12 is 24, so 35 times 12 is 420. I'm then going to multiply through by that common denominator of 24. So when I do that, I have 2,046 is greater than or equal to 76k plus 195k plus 420. That allows me to clear out the denominators. Then I'm going to combine my like terms on the right. So I have 2,046 is greater than or equal to 76 plus 195 is 271. Plus 420, 271k. I'm then going to use the subtraction property of inequality, and I'm going to subtract 420. So I'm going to remove the constants since my variable is already on the same side. And I'm going to come up here, running out of room. So 2,046 minus 420 is 1,626. Is greater than or equal to 271 times k. I'm going to use the division property of inequality and divide both sides by 271. And I end up with 6 is greater than k. Such a simple answer for such a complicated problem. All right, I want to make sure that my variable goes first. So I'm going to rewrite this as k is less than or equal to 6. Which means I'm going to have a closed dot on 6, and all the numbers that are less than 6 point to the left. So my arrow is pointing to the left.